Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning into your program. This is your community service program hosted by yours truly, Victor Trevino. Got a great show, very important guest tonight. Want you to stay tuned. We'll introduce them in just a second. But I want to say thank you for inviting us to your house again. And my reporter on the street is telling me we got some breaking news, so let's go to breaking news at this time.
Impact Day 2013, baby.
Helping beautify the Hamilton School, and we've got a large group out here, and we've broken into teams, and it's quite organized, and I was involved with the mulching up here, so doing some dirt work.
We are painting the benches, and we're going to lay down some towel up under the benches so they can still sit here kind of when it's raining. So basically we've went through, we've covered up the rust spots, got that all out, repainted, and about to put everything together right now.
So this is Lloyd's 14th annual Impact Day, and we've had a chance to come back to Hamilton Middle School to help them clean up some of the outside and the inside. My team here is pretty fantastic. We've moved forward at a really good pace. We're helping them paint some of the ramps, the lattice, and the canopies and the benches. Their royal blue school color matches up with the Lloyd blue, so that's pretty fantastic, and we don't mind getting some paint on. So gods have been good to us. It's really good weather because you know how bad summer could get in Texas, so we're enjoying the day.
Education is very important for the kids, and I think us being out here in this community will inspire other kids to make sure they go back to their communities and help out other kids and inspire them as well.
Right here we're just trying to flatten all the rock and plant some extra plants and put edging in, and then a bunch of other projects just to help make Hamilton Middle School a little bit prettier.
Our motto is leading from the front. So if we can be out here leading from the front and showing what pride we take in the community, it just can catch fire to everybody. Kind of like a basketball game, everybody gets hot and going to see them that we're having a good time doing it. So it's great to do something like this with a bunch of great people also.
Having a great time out here at Hamilton Middle School.
Congratulations to all those great volunteers from the company Lloyd. You know, that's what it's about, the breaking news on the Victor Trevino Show, talking about great people doing great things, volunteering, giving back of their time, being great role models, and then doing it for Hamilton Middle School, which is a great middle school right there in a great community, the Heights community. So to all the employees, to the Lloyd group, thank you very much. Congratulations. Keep up the good work. And when we talk about breaking news, it's not because we can't handle some of the tough news. That's why our partnership with Crime Stopper is very important. So let's go to our Crime of the Week at this time.
The The Constable and Crime Stoppers need your help identifying 2 suspects responsible for injuring a victim during an aggravated robbery at an area cash checking store. It happened back on February 25th of this year at a cash checking store located on the 2100 block of FM 1960. At approximately 12:35 p.m., 2 suspects entered the store leaping over the service counter. They ordered a female victim to empty the register drawer of its contents. After doing so, the suspects ordered that she open up the store safe. The victim advised the suspects that she was unable to open the safe and was pistol whipped in the back of the head as a result. The suspects are described as black males, the first between 20 and 25 years of age, standing approximately 5 foot 6 inches tall and weighing approximately 120 to 140 pounds with a black mustache. At the time of the incident, the suspect was wearing a black hooded sweatshirt, a red bandana, and tan shorts. The second suspect is described as a black male between 20 and 25 years of age, weighing approximately 140 to 150 pounds. At the time of the offense, the suspect was wearing a black jacket, a white hood, and a blue bandana. We ask that you take a look at these still photos. If you know the identity of either of these suspects, call Crime Stoppers at 713-222-TIPS. That's 713-222-8477. As always, callers to Crime Stoppers do remain anonymous and are eligible for a cash reward.
If you have any information on the crime of the week, call Crime Stoppers. You can get up to $5,000 reward. And remember, the best part, it's a win-win situation. Your name is never mentioned. They give you a code. That's the only way that you communicate there. So this crime happened on February the 25th of this year at the 2100 block of West FM 1960, aggravated robbery. These suspects are dangerous. With your help, we can put them behind bars and let them have their day in court. So again, thank you for making our Crime Stoppers here in Houston, Harris County, the #1 Crime Stoppers in the world. Thank you very much for that support. And at this time, we've got a special video that's being prepared right now because of the subject matter that's very important. So we're going to go to that video at this time.
Director of the Harris County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Thanks to our professional staff and great cooperation at all levels, we are well prepared for any disaster. In fact, Harris County is a national model for emergency preparedness and response. Our previous experiences have made our community stronger and better prepared. Being prepared can reduce the anxiety and the loss that accompany disasters. Having an emergency plan remains the most important tool to keep us safe. Saving the lives and property of Harris County residents is our #1 priority. 4 simple steps can prepare you for anything, from a storm to a man-made disaster. 1, get a kit and stock it with needed supplies, food, water, and other provisions that can last up to a week. 2, have a plan. Make sure that your family knows what to do if you need to evacuate. 3, stay informed. Know what's happening and what emergency officials are recommending you do. 4, get involved. Learn how you can help your friends and neighbors. Thank you for watching this Ready DVD. An involved community is a well-prepared community, and your partnership with Harris County is the foundation of our Homeland Security and Emergency Management strategy.
And again, if you want to completely view that video, you can go to www.readyhoustontx.gov. It's a very important video. I want to thank County Judge Emmett and the Commissioner's Court and our special guests that are here today. I want to introduce Eric Berger with the Houston Chronicle science reporter. Thank you for being here. Rosio Torres, back by popular demand, Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Thank you, Rosio.
Thanks for having us.
And also Lloyd Jacobson with the American Red Cross. Thank you for being here, Lloyd. And Michael Lambert, all the way from Galveston County. Thank you very much for being here from the Galveston County Office of Emergency Management.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank y'all for being here. We learned a lot from the past. Is there still room for improvement?
There's always room for improvement.
Absolutely.
How can we get better? Rocio?
Well, I think the more we tell the community and remind them of the importance of preparedness, especially during hurricane season, the more they'll understand, or the more they hear it, the more hopefully they'll get the message and they'll prepare in advance.
And I think also to you at home, I think the only way we can continue to improve is with your help, your support, your ideas, but also you at home knowing how important that if we're talking about being prepared, that you actually talk with each other. You talk with the family, your friends, your neighbors. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that the most important thing to understand about the question of are we ready is that every storm is different. So in Houston back in 2001, we dealt with a serious flood event with Tropical Storm Allison. And then during Ike in 2008, which was a large hurricane, we dealt with a storm surge. What Houston hasn't really dealt with in a long time is a major windstorm, which is sort of the third sort of piece of the pie when it comes to major damages from storms. And so, you know, people kind of get in this mindset, well, Hurricane Ike only did this, or Tropical Storm Allison only did that, when in fact the next storm is going to be completely unique and will have different threats, even though they're all tropical systems.
And different challenges, exactly, correct. Yes,
if I might, this, we've seen a really substantial uptick in Galveston County. We're doing hurricane town halls. I think we're somewhere near about halfway through them. But we've seen a lot of people coming out with interest. And we've kind of marveled at that and tried to think of why that would be. It's been a while since we've had a hurricane. We get a hurricane here or some sort of a hurricane slides off of us every so many years, and we get a direct hit about the number of years we are. So we're getting close, but we actually believe that some of the interest has a lot to do with what's going on in the central part of the country with the tornadoes, and the devastation wrought by those tornadoes has somehow managed to implant itself in people's minds, and they really want to be better prepared and have a higher level of understanding for what's going on. And I don't mean to step on Harris County's toes, since this was the Harris County hurricane conference, which was last Saturday over at the George R. Brown. But we were there with a booth, and my understanding is that was the largest, twice as large as it was last year. So people are interested, and we have to project the messages that Rosie has, that I have, that Lloyd has, that Eric has about how to be prepared. And so that's what makes this such a great opportunity for us.
And so people are paying attention. They are listening.
Yes, they are, absolutely.
And I know the Red Cross is always involved in so many different challenges.
Yeah, and I think after a year with a very deadly storm that probably caught a lot more media attention because it went up the Northeast, people are also in tune to this. I certainly have seen this both on this coast and on the East Coast. I lived in the D.C. region in the 2004. We had a storm come up through D.C. Actually got impacted worse by that storm than I did personally by Ike, living down here by then. But every storm is very different. There it was wind. We were far inland, but it really took the city by surprise. And I worked with a lot of colleagues who were expecting it to be like a blizzard. Said, no, this is going to be very different. And I gave them some hints on how to prep, and hopefully folks in this area, if they are new to the region or if they're experienced, they'll do the same this year.
And as the Red Cross, I mean, you're always prepared. How do y'all stay so, I think, so prepared, not just being involved?
Well, we drill on some of this year out, and try to inform the public about it year out, whether it's dealing with a hurricane or it's dealing with a house or a multi-apartment fire. Some of the aspects of what you're planning for or what you have to do in response are very similar, or some of the prep is very similar. So we're
definitely many people are very grateful to have always, y'all are there for every emergency. And getting back to talking about emergencies and how much we've evolved and the progress that we've made, tell us some of the new involvement as far as the Office of Emergency Management when it comes to hurricane preparedness.
Well, like you said, you learn from every incident. And after Ike, they were trying to figure out ways to avoid mass evacuations that were going to cause, trouble on the highways. We worked on a lot of plans that will help, run things smoothly.
Do you think we could really control if, let's say, we have a huge storm coming? This is the biggest predicted, and we're going to start the evacuation process. Could we really control that?
You can't control but you can do things to plan. And Hurricane Rita, I think, all due respect, caught emergency planners kind of with their pants down, because there was a much larger evacuation than was predicted, because it was following just 3 weeks after Katrina. And so everyone was freaked out about the potential for damage here. And if you remember, 3 days out, this was a major Category 4 hurricane that was a worst case scenario for Houston. And so I think it was 1.5 million people evacuated. After that, and that caused obviously 20-hour traffic jams.
But at that time, we also didn't have a plan.
That's
when
right.
we called for evacuation, we didn't have a plan. So I have a lot of faith in the people that if we give them the plan that y'all have, that I've heard in the past, I have confidence and trust in our community that they will follow it, that they will be respectful, because y'all have done a lot of diligent work in making this plan.
Well, and that's what I want to say. After Hurricane Rita, the state, the county, the city came together, the whole region came together and developed a plan, not only of setting aside evacuation routes and contraflow lane, meaning all traffic leads out of the city, but also one of the major problems was having access to gasoline. And so they have a plan to pre-position gasoline supplies that would allow people to get out of the communities and then get back in. And so I think the community, as a result of what happened during Rita, is in a much better position. And as you were saying about the public being responsive, I think their communication of information is a little more clear this time as well.
And speaking to TxDOT, you know, recently, and with drills and things that have, you know, been happening over the last few weeks and months, you know, the plan, of course, would be, you know, get everybody out safe and, you know, have the traffic flowing. But, you know, you can't expect to get on the highway, like someone said from TxDOT, and go 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, we're not going to be able to move traffic that fast. You know, it'll be nice if they can get out at, what, 35 or 20?
I was in the same meeting you were in, and he said,
Yes.
if I can keep them going 30 or 35 miles an hour, I will consider that to be a success.
Yes.
There's the question, and this came to us a couple of weeks ago when we were working on a hurricane full-scale exercise down in Galveston County, and the question came up, well, what was the difference between the Rita evacuation and the Ike evacuation? And for us, the answer is there really wasn't an Ike evacuation because of the mindset that arose from Rita. But there are some other things that need to be put on the table here. We are much better prepared with regards to what is a surge zone, what is a potential at-risk zone. Whereas we used to have these zones that were kind of drawn on the maps, and you had to kind of be able to figure out where you were. Now we have them in zip codes, and they call them surge zones. And it's a much easier way to communicate to people that you are at risk, not just if you live in a zone and you're looking at the map trying to figure it out. We can say, if you're in 77539, which is Leaks or Dickinson, you need to go. And so we can get to that level of precision. And the maps are very precise. Now, there's no accounting for the odd what they call the black swan, the event that happens that's non-predictable. But with that regard, we can zero in much more precisely and let people know much more precisely who should go. Now, if I might, one more thing, since there might be some Galveston folks listening in, all of Galveston County is in a surge zone. It's in a flood zone. Now, it's not necessarily in, it's further in you get, the less likely it is, but you're still in a surge zone. And our message to the people of Galveston County and communities therein, when someone says go, go. We're not kidding. Go. And we're going to pull the trigger by agreement between Harris County and Houston and the Galveston County and the folks of the South. We're going to pull the trigger early. We're going to say go now, primarily so that our folks can get up and get through before it's necessary for them to go. But if you live in the coastal flood zone and someone says go, go then. Don't wait till the next morning. That happened to the people on Bolivar. That's why there were 635 helicopter evacuations off of Bolivar. It got to be kind of late. They thought they'd leave the next morning. Well, the water got there before.
But they were told to leave earlier.
They were told to leave.
So I think to you at home, and you have friends and relatives in areas that are surge areas, that when they're told to leave, that you're going to be our best help also. There's only so much that the government can do in terms of getting the message out. But you got to make believers out of them. That why take a chance? Why risk their lives when they have the opportunity to leave and to be in a safe area? That's why it's important that you may think you've heard all this before. You know, we're being repetitious. We're going to continue to do that because the message has got to be clear that it is very critical that we need you, you know, to be the ones that really carry this message of how important it is. For example, even senior citizens, you know, there's a program that y'all have that's available for them if they have no one else.
Yes, if someone needs a ride, whether they have a medical condition or simply if they just don't have a ride out or a vehicle or a family member that can help them evacuate. If they need help evacuating, they need to register by calling or dialing 211. And by doing this, they'll have their information, and they will be on a list of people that they will help
So
evacuate.
they can already register.
Yes,
now?
if the sooner the better. If they're registered ahead of time, it's easier to go out there and get them.
So again, you don't have to wait for a state of emergency, you know, to occur. You can go ahead and register, so you're already on a list. So they have the information that's important. Unless the information changes, then you need to let them know. But otherwise, we're ahead, you know, of the game in terms of being prepared.
That's
Sure,
one
jump in
of
there.
the great programs that came about after Rita. Sort of this realization that it wasn't just, you know, families that needed to get out. There were people who didn't have ways to get out of the city, and so they came in and they created this registry. And if you look at, I think, registration numbers, you saw a spike when the program was created, then a spike after Ike, but then it goes back down because awareness goes down as you get away from the last major event. So that's why I think it's important on a program like this to get the message out for people who, if you know someone who doesn't have a way out of town or might not have a way out of town, to get them registered now.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's important for you to continue to get the message out there. You're hearing from the expert here. Now, introduce him again for you. Eric Berger with the Houston Chronicle Science Reporter. And Rosio Torres, Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. And we also have Lloyd Jacobson with the American Red Cross. And we have Michael Lambert, all the way from Galveston County, Office of Emergency Management. Thank you for being here. But while all the experts are well-versed and aware of the plan, you know, all the steps that are involved, it is critical for you to be the ones that carry that message over. We talked about seniors, we talked about the plan, the surge, you know, the American Red Cross also being prepared. But one thing that's got to be clear, that during that critical moment, let's say that the hurricane's hitting, even first responders have to take cover. Even first responders, because we will not be able to respond to you if we're out there also losing our lives. So that's something that's got to be clear to you at home. And I know we got some calls coming in, and I'll start taking some of your calls, but I want to make sure I mention that, because sometimes I think people think that when the hurricanes come in, they can call us for assistance, and that's why we can't wait for that moment.
I think that's a very important point, that sort of taking personal responsibility. I mean, these storms are called disasters for a reason. They are disasters, and there's only so much government can do. And so people do need to be prepared and take precautions now.
But I personally have seen how much we've progressed. I mean, and I know you've heard the story before from me that during Allison, you know, there at my precinct, we couldn't help anybody. The sheriff's department couldn't handle all the calls, the fire department, HPD. And why couldn't we help anybody? I didn't have the equipment. I didn't have the boats. I didn't have the big Army vehicles. So after that, we did. We set a priority that we're going to put in our budget. So now they're at Precinct 6. We have a high water rescue team. These individuals are properly trained. They're certified. They go to training once a month to stay in shape and be prepared. So we're prepared. We can assist the other agencies that mostly have been known for that. Some of us small government agencies, we didn't think about it back then. We thought, oh, that's HPD, that's the Sheriff's Department. So now when we were their assistant, we got a lot of calls and we saved a lot of lives, and that's what first responders, it's about. Let me get to this call that's been patiently waiting. You're on the air, go ahead, please.
Yes, I just wanted to know, there's so many places to get information. I just wanted to know what the best places were to get information on hurricanes, such as spaghetti models, all kinds of different resources and information about evacuations. Where like one place you can go and get that rather than going to a bunch of different websites.
Pretty good. We'll answer it over there. Thank you.
Well, I mean, we have a website, and we'd be happy to have them come to our website. It's www.readyharris.org, and we have different links to different agencies that we work with, like the American Red Cross. We have links to Galveston. We have links to the media. We have links to the zip zone evacuation maps, where people can find out if they're in that zip code. If they know that their zip code, they can just look up their zip code and find out.
What do you mean about the spaghetti model?
Well, maybe that's what he calls it.
Started making me hungry, but I got to wait till after the show.
That's an Eric answer.
Those are the plot of all the different lines that the models, forecast models, take a storm, and so it kind of looks like spaghetti because they go all over the place. And over the last 10 years on the internet, you've seen an increasing amount of availability of these, so anyone who wants to look at all the model forecasts for a particular storm can go and look at it. Of course, there's one official forecast that comes from the National Hurricane Center, which bases their forecast in part on those models and in part on what they understand about hurricanes. The trouble with spaghetti plots, and I agree they're important and they're interesting to look at, is that some models do much better with hurricanes than other models. Some models are these global dynamical models that factor in all kinds of information and have a much better picture of what the track is versus these smaller statistical models. And there are also, during a particular storm, you'll find that a model or two is verifying better in terms of its forecast. And so the forecasters will give that model more credence. So spaghetti plots are interesting, and they're worth looking at if you're interested in weather. But for forecasting information, you cannot go wrong with the National Hurricane Center. They're the best. That's what their job is to do, and they're the experts.
Well said. Let me get to another caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
I was just wondering if there is a system of help for adults, seniors, when there's an evacuation.
Okay, we'll answer all of
And
it.
I will hang up and listen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the subject you're having tonight.
Thank you for watching. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Good
Bye.
night. Bye-bye.
Like we mentioned earlier, the Transportation Assistance Registry will help seniors get out of town if they need to. They just need to register, and the earlier they do it, the better. The thing is that registry is renewed every year, so it's important that if you registered last year, that you register again this year, so you don't get kicked off the list because that list gets purged, and you don't want to be off the list. So it's very important that they dial 211 to register.
Right. And,
go ahead.
Well, and I make presentations from time to time at community centers, and sometimes the community center also does a bit of a registration, particularly if they have a senior program, and that might actually be the center point where they'll pick up several of the individuals, but the center will make their own calls into the 211 system and make sure that they know that they can help locate and centralize a pickup. But also the program can assist individuals who are differently abled, who may be young adults who have got disabilities and the like and have family that need caregivers. So it's important to call also for that, not just for seniors.
And you can call it 211. And again, as Rosio mentioned a while ago, if it's been over a year, then you need to update it. You got to register every year so that the information is fresh. And again, something I'm just throwing out there, in case you change locations or information changes, you definitely need to call back with the correct information. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
I just wanted to underscore that for the folks in Galveston County, to let them know that 211 also works there. Each individual jurisdiction gets their own list. They make their plans. We have what we colloquially call the no-fault transport. It does not matter to us whether you're differently abled, have money or have no money. If you want to get off the island or get out of the surge zone, whether you're in the mainland or on the island, we want to get you off. In fact, we want you off whether you want or not. So the 211, you can show up at our transport locations, which are the Galveston Island Community Center down on Broadway or the Doyle Center in Texas City, and we will get you there. We will get. You're not going to get to stay in a Holiday Inn. You're going to wind up on a cot in Austin, Texas, in a gymnasium eating Salvation Army food.
Safe.
But you're not going to be flooded. You're not going to be in the flood zone.
We'll be right back with our special guest, but at this time we got some special party folks that know how to party hardy. But we'll take your calls also. We'll be putting the phone in front of your screen so you can call us, and ask us some questions, or maybe you can give us some of your recommendations. But let's go to this special birthday celebrations.
Flores, and I've been here since 2001, and I enjoy being with my friends, and I have a good time every day I come.
Me llamo Antonia Hernández para servirles y necesito dar las gracias por este lugar tan bonito que nos tienen para podernos divertir un poco. Muchas gracias.
Happy birthday to everybody, and thank you for all the things you have given me. Thank you.
Congratulations to all those youngsters out there celebrating their birthday. As I always mention to you, birthdays are a very special celebration. It's a moment for us to reflect the beautiful memories, that we've made, but it's also an opportunity for us to plan the beautiful memories we're about to make. So keep on celebrating out there, Salvation Army. Thank you for inviting us out there and making us part of that very special celebration. And we're back again with our special guest. We're talking about the evacuations, or when you're taking people out, 211, where you register if you're someone that is physically challenged or a senior citizen. But when people are taken out, how do you decide where they're going to go? Is that part of the plan already? Like, let's say people from Galveston, you already know where they're going to go?
Yes, we do. There's what we call a point-to-point contract with Austin, and we were one of the first people in the state to have this. When the buses roll out of Galveston County, they go to Austin. They know where they'll be. And we have the ability to put the wristbands on folks and get them logged in, and we'll be able to track them. It won't be like that nightmare of Katrina when you had people here and children in Chicago and other places. So we're able to follow through the process. But yes, we do have point-to-point. We know that when they leave Galveston County, they're going to go to Austin, and they're going to be put up in school gymnasiums. They won't stay there very long. It's an emergency, get them out, and then they'll come back, and we'll shelter them through another plan. But yes, we do.
And earlier during the break, you were talking about something else that we have to talk about. Was that?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that I'm sorry, I don't know how Harris County does it, but Galveston County, we have upped our ability to communicate with our residents and our citizens through the reverse 911 process. Ours is Blackbaud is the name of the program. It will actually call, just like we all know about reverse 911. We also are part of IPAWS, which is a new system that will call cell phones that are in a geographical area. Now, Eric could probably do a better job of explaining it than I can, but this is what you need to know. You'll get a call on your cell phone with emergency information. And that's important to us because we have 500,000 visitors down there at any given time that may not be signed up on Blackbaud, and they need to get information. So it's very important to us that we be able to reach out in any number of ways to communicate that, yes, there's something going on, yes, you need to raise your level of awareness, or yes, you need to go, you need to get out of here.
We're talking about those models, well, the spaghetti model, whatever. How accurate is when the weather, the national weather, when they declare this is going to be a Category 4, Category 5? I guess.
Sure. There's two key parts of a forecast. There's the track forecast, which is essentially where it's going to go, and then there's the intensity forecast, which is how strong it will be. And over the last 15 or 20 years, as computing power has increased and as the understanding of how the physics of the core of storms has improved, the track forecasts have improved a great deal, to the point where about 12 years ago they went from issuing a 3-day forecast to a 5-day forecast, and now they're probably going to increase that to a 7-day forecast in terms of where the storm is going to go. There have not been concurrent improvements in intensity forecasting. That's because some of the structural understanding of storms is still not that well understood, and they're not proper equations to put into the models. And so there's been a big effort in the scientific community to better change how we model the intensity changes, and it's believed that improvements are going to come online in the next 5 or 10 years. But you can have some confidence when forecasters say where a storm will go. You can have less confidence in how strong they think it will be.
Good. I've got a call of this on hold, but I'll be right back with you. Be patient. I want to get back to the Red Cross and the fact that y'all are part of all these meetings, and you're talking about you go to certain communities to speak. So is that people can call y'all and schedule y'all to speak at certain communities to talk about?
Certainly. I don't remember the number of our scheduler, but indeed,
no, it's okay.
As volunteers, as volunteers, we're asked on occasion to go and speak to a neighborhood center's facility or a senior living facility, you name it, and we make the presentations about how to be prepared. And sometimes it's entertaining because I hear all about the storm of such and such year versus so and so year, but at the same time, exactly. But at the same time, they always have an opportunity to realize how every storm is indeed unique, whether it's separated by 20 years or just 2. We make ourselves available, and we indeed want to make sure people understand that. And I don't know what the figures, but we're constantly seeing more and more studies about how Houston is growing. So I keep wondering about the number of people who are new to this area, who did not experience Ike. I know, as I mentioned, I was in D.C. when we had a storm there, and D.C. is a huge city for rapid turnaround. So many of these folks came from northern climes where blizzard was the only thing they could relate to, and I was telling them this is very different. Now here you have people who have never experienced a hurricane perhaps, and they may indeed know something other model, but it may not bear any relevance for what they're about to experience if another storm comes to Houston.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Let me get to this caller who's been patiently waiting. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Alex, and I was wondering why people are saying there are going to be so many hurricanes this year.
Good question. I'll let the experts answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The primary reason for that is that the sea surface temperatures in the area of the Atlantic Ocean, where most of these tropical storms form and eventually become hurricanes, are warmer than normal. And there are no factors out there that would inhibit or sort of act to dampen the activity of storms this year. And so virtually every seasonal forecaster has predicted that there will be about 50% or more activity in terms of tropical storms, hurricanes, and major hurricanes this year.
Was it a good sign that the first hurricane that hit in Florida, I forgot the name of it already, I'm sorry.
Andrea.
Was it a good sign that it wasn't as strong as they first thought it was going to be?
First of all, with hurricanes, past performance means nothing with regard to future activity. But that storm, that storm strengthened as it was going toward landfall, and if it had another 12 hours, it may actually have become a hurricane. But it doesn't really mean anything. It's going to be a fertile year, although it looks like the next couple of weeks are probably going to be quiet.
And the fact that they're predicting a lot of storms doesn't mean that all those storms are going to come here. They're going to be spread out. We're going to get storms. If it's not in the Gulf, it's going to be, in the Atlantic or, somewhere in between. So, there will be storms.
And let's tell the public, for example, about how to be prepared at home. What besides, I guess, the food, the flashlights, what do we have to tell the public?
Well, the very first thing that I'd like to say is let us disabuse ourselves that 3 days is long enough. We kind of joke around our office that the worst day of any post-storm is the 3rd day, because that's when everybody thinks everything's going to go back to normal. And it's not going to be the 3rd day. It's going to be some day after the 3rd day, whether it's going to be 7 or however many days. So we need to get people to start thinking in terms of keeping food, water, and provisions for up to 7 to 10 days. That's extremely important. That's a message that clearly needs to be communicated. But the batteries, the water, the medications, even down to the toiletries that you'll need, you need to keep those available. We also highly recommend people have a battery operated or hand crank radio, because you may not have any other way to communicate. And we all know post Ike that text messaging works better than telephones. So be prepared to text, because it's a much smaller demand on the system than a telephone call.
And what about pets? What can people do to be prepared?
It's important to remember your pet when you're making your plan, because whether you're going to take your pet with you, that you're going to need to take pet supplies, his food, his medicines, whatever you use at home for the pet, you need to take it with you if you're going to travel with your pet. Also, if you're going to stay, you need to have enough food, medicines, and everything the pet needs if you're going to stay. It's very important also to remember that if we lose electricity, that the ATMs aren't going to be working, and they need to have cash at hand if they're going to want to purchase, groceries or gas at the places where they may be offering it, the places that have electricity. And that's another thing. We had a lot of calls during Ike of people not having diapers and formula. That's another thing to think about when you're putting your kit together. Make sure you have enough diapers and enough formula for your child, at least for a few days, more than 7.
and exactly. And there's one other population out there that had a bad experience during Ike, and that was people on oxygen generators. Those that were oxygen dependent, that sheltered in place, and found, particularly in the northern suburbs and the northern part of the counties, where they didn't have any electricity. And there was a massive scramble to be able to get them oxygen in bottles. Now, that's another issue that's been addressed by the state. But people need to be aware, if you're oxygen dependent and you're going to shelter in place, to make sure that you have backup supply for at least a few days before they can get to you.
And one thing also, just to assure the public that if in case we are in a state of emergency, that all first responders, especially law enforcement, they would be working 24/7 to make sure that all the community is protected, and the patrols will be out there when it's safe. Of course, during the actual storm itself, law enforcement will be taking cover until it's safe for them to go out there. But they will be, if I'm not mistaken, I know we do it at our precinct, there was 24/7, there'll be coverage out there. Because in a state of emergency, that's what will happen. Just for you, to the public, to be assured that if electricity is out, whatever, that the patrols will be out there 24/7.
There's one thing that I like to mention, that not everyone is going to need to evacuate. There's people that live further inland that aren't in danger. So we need to let the people that live closer to the coast, the people that are in those storm zip zones, storm surge zip zones, get out first. So if your area is not called for an evacuation, you need to stay home and take refuge there until the storm passes. And if you want to leave after and it's safe, and the public officials say it's safe to go, then go. But don't leave in the middle of the storm. Definitely.
It's going to be important for you at home to definitely be paying attention to the news. Lloyd, go ahead.
In addition to the goods we think about keeping for ourselves, we also talk about paperwork that you might need, insurance cards, whether that's for your home or for your person, prescriptions, documentation that you might need. I mean, if you leave the island, you have to have documentation that you own a residence on the island. But even just written phone numbers. So many of us have got our phone numbers stored in our phones, but if your battery dies, do you still know the number? So you have all these things available, and keep them. We usually suggest keeping them in a big Ziploc bag, ready for travel if you have to bug out. But at the same time, if you don't, you've got it there, and easy to take advantage of if you need it. So,
and let me underscore that for reentry. That's an excellent point. Reentry into the cities, the jurisdictions in Galveston County will require a Texas driver's license, current Texas driver's license, and a utility bill that's not more than 90 days old. And so we recommend that people, and there's the booklet from that's out that you'll see at some of these, I don't remember, I think it's National Weather Service, matter of fact, it puts it out. And we recommend that people take and staple their utility bill to the back of that book, because it's a big book and it's hard to lose. The utility bill is easy to lose, but the book's not. And there's a lot of great information in there, by the way. My boss would be very unhappy with me if I didn't say, take that book and read it. It will tell you just about everything you need to know about hurricane and evacuations. National Weather Service book.
Well said. I wanted to get back to what Rosio was mentioning about that you at home have to understand that not everyone may have to evacuate. It just depends on your location and what the public officials are recommending. But when it comes to a mandate, as mentioned earlier, that it's mandatory that you leave, that's the best thing. I mean, to try to second guess will just create a lot more hardship for the first responders, and you're putting your life on the line. But is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. We have a saying, and it's just kind of one of those things that we say, hide from the wind, run from the waves. Of course, Galveston County will be evacuating because of surge. We won't be evacuating because trees are going to fall on us. There's not that many trees in Galveston County, but we appreciate the fact that people would not go simply because of inconvenience that they might have because their electricity would be out, because that makes it easier for the people who are critically in danger to get out during that period of time. And let's not forget, and this is very important, and this speaks to Eric can speak better to it, but I heard a great statistic I didn't know the other day that said that somewhere in the neighborhood 2/3 of the storms that hit the upper Texas coast come in June or July. They're early in the season. And let's not forget Humberto, the only hurricane that hit the United States in 2007, 1 year to the day before Ike, spun up and went from just a little tropical wave out there off of Matagorda to a hurricane in 19 hours. Fastest spin up of a storm ever in the United States. It was small, fast growing, hit at High Island, one unfortunate death, a lot of damage, but they can spin up and they can hit you fast. That's why you need to go when you're advised to go.
You mentioned about, is June the month or
no,
July?
Well, I mean, Texas can be threatened in any month. Certainly we've had some damaging storms in June and July. But principally the months of biggest concern are August and September. And actually after September, although hurricane season actually lasts through October, November, it's extremely rare for Texas to get hit after about the September 24th time period by a hurricane. But certainly between now and the end of September is a time when people need to be sort of on their toes, their toes the most. And Mike raised a very good point about Humberto. And I think that's kind of the worst nightmare for emergency planners, is these storms that can develop in the Gulf and very quickly go from being a tropical storm to a hurricane, offshore, and then move inland. And so there's almost no time to conduct an evacuation. It was unlike with Hurricane Rita, when you had an Ike, you had 4, 5, 6 days. You could watch the storm entering the Gulf and coming across the Gulf and making preparations accordingly. With these storms that form in the Gulf and then move inland quickly, there's not time to do that. And so that's one more reason for people to make the necessary preparations now, and that includes identifying if you'll go, and if you're going to go, where you're going to go, if you're going to stay, what you need to stay.
Mm-hmm. And talking about to you at home, talking about the plans to already have your emergency needs at the house, this is the time to do it. Water's not going to spoil. Certain canned food will last you sometimes up to a year, more or less. So you've got, no reason why not to be prepared there, whether it's the flashlights. Of course, medication, it has to be appropriate, but medication is very important for those of us that have to take medicine, to be prepared. And all this information, while it's repetitious, you can hear a lot of it, ladies and gentlemen, we still need you to keep repeating it at home to your neighbors. As was mentioned earlier, maybe neighborhood meetings, your local civic clubs, or if you go to a senior center, invite someone, one of the experts, or someone from Office of Emergency Management, or any first responders, invite them to go talk to you personally so that you can ask them personal questions there. But this is real important in being what I can call proactive, being preventive. Go ahead.
I would just like to say, it sounds odd, but actually we're lucky to be on the Gulf Coast where our primary natural disaster vulnerability is hurricanes, because hurricanes are one of those rare natural disasters that you can prepare for. You can be proactive. You can take steps to ensure that you don't lose your life. You can take steps to protect your property and preserve your papers and important things like that. If you're in California, earthquakes, you have very little warning of that. In the Midwest, unfortunately, as we've seen this spring and early summer, tornadoes, you have maybe 10 or 15 minutes warning, if that, when a tornado hits, and it can be just as destructive, if not more, than a hurricane. So, here in Houston, we're, earthquakes, not a factor. Tornadoes, very rarely do we get the strong ones. Hurricanes, yeah, we get a major one direct hit about every 20 years, but you can prepare for it. You're going to know it's coming, and so it's incumbent upon people to take advantage of that.
Go ahead, Rosio.
I'm sorry.
No,
and I think people get comfortable. They say, we didn't have a hurricane last year. We didn't have one the year before. They're just bugging us to get ready, and nothing's going to happen. But we're not doing this to bug the community. We really want them to be prepared, because if they're prepared for a hurricane, they can be prepared for any type of disaster.
Or the other thing is that people say it's not going to be that bad. They always get it wrong. The weatherman always gets it wrong. I mean, they tell you no rain today, it's sunny. We had rain all over. But seriously, folks, I mean, we can kid about it and have a little sense of humor, but on the reality side, it's very serious. And I believe that we've made a lot of progress. We've learned a lot from the past, but we shouldn't just take it for granted. If we didn't, if maybe they got it a little bit wrong, but we still had a hurricane, and we still have to be prepared. Let me get to this caller. You on the air? Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir, Constable. I really enjoy this information for the community. But one of the things that I don't know if Harris County has a plan for this or not, but here in Houston, we flood a lot. And when we have rain coming and stuff like that, do they have any preparation for getting the debris out of the gutters and things like that? Because it seems like when we get into a hurricane situation, when we get into rain, we wind up getting flooded because of the debris that's out on the street clogging up all the sewers.
Good point. Good question. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah,
Well, flood control has done a lot to, make the flooding situation a little, alleviate the flooding situations. But there's always going to be problems in Houston.
What?
When it if it rains a lot, it's going to flood. And if you know that your area floods, you need to keep your streets, clean, free of debris. Keep an eye on the people that are cutting your yards, that they're not, throwing the debris, the extra cuttings down the drain, and, that are clogging the
No disrespect to whoever invented the blower. It's just, that's all it does. It blows it into the drainage and, and to stop the side of the street. They blow it into the street. And I've seen that and I wonder, I don't think that, that was the intent of it. But I think the question was really about whether maybe it's public works, that it gets out there. And I've seen them. I have seen them in other emergencies that they're out there right away. It's a matter of fact, the public needs to call immediately. Right. Don't look at, let's say, a tree that fell in the middle of the street and think, oh, someone else will call. Someone else is going to call. You need to call and let them know the location, and they'll get out there because they're also working around the clock. You were going to say something?
Well, it's not a Red Cross issue, but I do recall there was some speculation, I think last year, about if a storm came through and the drought's impact on debris. And I don't know if we're doing anything proactive on that or if people can. Obviously, we did cut down a lot of trees in the Houston area that were already dead, but that might be something to be on the lookout for. And if you
and especially you at home again, because I've had neighbors that come to the office or call us about the neighbor's trees. What can you do about it? Y'all just have to make a personal decision, hopefully neighbors that can communicate with each other to see if you can do something about that, because I don't think that the law enforcement is going to make anyone cut a tree down. That's not going to happen. It's got to be the neighbors helping each other out.
And frankly, I mean, the price of one of the price of having trees is that they fall over in storms. They're not perfect structures. They're not, they have weaknesses. And And so the only true solution to not having debris and storm would be to cut down all the trees, and I don't think anyone wants that in our community. And I know the city has a pretty good debris removal program after storms come through, but you can't really pre-cut live trees unless
And I guess what I meant was neighbors will say, well, that branch is on my side.
Absolutely.
Can I cut it? Can I cut it anyway without the neighbor, even though the tree belongs to him? So my position is, can y'all talk about it and communicate so that y'all can come to a gentle agreement? Because you're right, it's not, the idea is not to cut all the trees. No, but neighbors out there, we get the darnest complaints, that the leaves are falling on my side. Can they come and rake it? Instead of them raking it. But unfortunately, we're running out of time, but we still got about a couple minutes left, and I wanted y'all to have some final comments. So, Eric?
I would just say, it's projected to be a busy hurricane season, but that certainly doesn't mean that something is going to hit Houston or even hit Texas. There's so much variability from year to year, and you can't really predict accurately before a season begins whether an area is going to be hit. And so, the time to make decisions about what you're going to do this year, next year, and 10 years from now is right now. Mm-hmm. And the most important question, I would go to your Office of Emergency Management, whatever county you live in, figure out what the vulnerabilities of where you live are and whether you would go in the case of a hurricane. And if you're going to go, you need to figure out where to go, where you're going to go, and if you're going to stay, you need to do all the preparations that we've talked about.
Okay. Rosio?
Definitely. Let me just plug our website again. It's www.readyharris.org. We have links on, how to prepare. We have links on evacuation routes, zip zone maps, links to all our partners, all the different OEMs, Office of Emergency Management. So they can get more information there.
Appreciate it. Lloyd?
Well, I'll plug our website too. Our national website, redcross.org, is where people can get all the information that we provide about how to be ready in the event of a storm. But we also have a Red Cross app for smartphones. Whether you have an iPhone or an Android, you can download Red Cross. If you search Red Cross Hurricane, we have a complete ready-to-go app that has both preparation guidelines as well as, in the event of a hurricane, there is information on where shelters are at and a variety of other resources.
Before I get to you, there's one more thing that I think is important we forgot to mention or haven't. In case there is flood, I don't know where I saw this, where this community, unfortunately after the storm, the power went out, but they left the power on. Do you remember that incident in a community where the fire started and burned a lot of homes because of that? Just you need to be aware of that. Maybe we'll talk about it more later on, but that's real critical, that you cut the power off until you make sure that everything's taken care of. But final comments, I'm sorry.
Well, sure. For the folks in Galveston that might be listening, and for everybody, the general thing that you need to be aware of are the steps is, one, if you're going to need help, if you're going to need a ride for whatever reason, call 211 and register. There are links to 211 on our website, gcoem.org. I know that Rosio has links on her website also. But make that call, get on the list, maintain your situational awareness so that you know what's going on in the Gulf and know what's about to happen if it is. Be prepared with all the essentials that you're going to need for 7 to 10 days. Go if you're told by the elected officials in your jurisdiction to go. We're not doing it just because we want to inconvenience you. We're basing it on the best science available, and be patient. Be patient with one another during and after, because it's a hardship. We on the coast who've been here for a while know just exactly how difficult it is to live after a storm. So be patient.
And again, to you at home, we've created a lot of partnerships in government, but the best partner is you at home. Making sure you get that information to your family, to your neighbors, and of course to the little ones, even the little young children. Make sure you talk to them about it, because they're going to be the next generation. Have a great week. Thank you very much.